A $100 horror story cost her life. While strolling down the street with my best friend, we came across someone selling horror stories. 100 yuan for a story, told face to face. If it didn't scare you, you didn't have to pay. My friend wanted to try it. I was too timid to go near. Unexpectedly, after she finished listening, she abandoned me and ran off. It wasn't until evening that she finally called me. Her voice was trembling as she forced out a single sentence. Whatever you do, don't go listen to that story. And then, she jumped. While walking down the street, a small stall caught my attention. Behind it, 4 sheets of black cloth had been set up to form a makeshift room. In front hung a handwritten sign. Horror stories for sale. 100 yuan per story. If it doesn't scare you, you don't pay. It felt strangely novel. This was the first time I had ever seen someone selling stories. The moment my best friend Gu Xiaoli saw it, her eyes lit up. She was obsessed with all things horror and thrill. Almost every horror novel and film on the market, she had seen them all. Every year, she even set aside time to visit famous haunted houses, both at home and abroad. By now, her tolerance for fear had reached an absurd level, the kind of horror films that left ordinary people too scared to even go to the bathroom at night. After watching them, her heartbeat wouldn't even quicken. Gu Xiaoli stared at the sign, raising an eyebrow. If it doesn't scare you, you don't pay? She let out a laugh. Wow, that's a bold claim. All right then. Let me teach this guy a proper lesson today. With that, she grabbed my hand and pulled me straight toward the stall. There was no one outside. Just as she was about to call out, the black curtain was suddenly pulled aside. When I saw the figure step out from within, I flinched. The person wore a loose black robe with a hood pulled low, their entire face hidden in shadow. You're the owner? Faced with Gu Xiaoli's question, the robed figure said nothing, only pointed at the sign. Gu Xiaoli took out a 100 yuan bill and handed it over. If I'm not scared, you give this back. The figure nodded, lifted the curtain, and gestured for her to enter. I leaned in to peek inside. Something had clearly been arranged there. Not a single ray of sunlight could get through. It was pitch dark, as if it swallowed everything whole. A chill crept up my spine. I tugged gently at Gu Xiaoli's sleeve. Xiaoli, what if it's dangerous? Maybe you shouldn't go in. She patted my hand lightly and smiled. He's just putting on a creepy act. Might scare ordinary people, but it won't work on me. Relax, I'll be right out. After she stepped inside, the robed figure followed slowly behind, disappearing beneath the curtain. As the fabric fell back into place, for some reason, my heart trembled with it. Time passed. Inside, there was only dead silence. No sound. No movement. As if the 2 people who had entered had simply vanished. Half an hour went by. Gu Xiaoli still hadn't come out. My mind began racing with thoughts of kidnappings, disappearances. Just as I was about to call her, the curtain lifted. Gu Xiaoli stepped out. Something was terribly wrong. Her face was deathly pale. Her hands were clenched into fists. Her lips had lost all color, trembling uncontrollably. A wave of unease hit me. Xiaoli, are you okay? She didn't answer. She only lifted her head and looked at me, deeply. That look made my heart skip. There was fear in her eyes, unwillingness, and even a trace of resentment. After that single glance, she turned and ran. She ran fast, too fast for me to catch up. I texted her. I called her. No response. I couldn't believe it. Was that story really that terrifying? It wasn't until nightfall that she finally called me. Relief flooded through me as I answered. But before I could say a word, a piercing, horrified scream exploded from the other end of the line. After saying that, she hung up. It wasn't until the next day that I received the news. Gu Xiaoli had jumped to her death. She had opened the window and leapt straight down from the 36th floor. Her body shattered into a mangled mass of flesh. It felt like someone had struck me hard across the head. My mind went blank. If this news hadn't come from her fiancé, Chen Yang, I would have believed it was nothing more than a cruel joke. In my eyes, Gu Xiaoli had absolutely no reason to take her own life. She had a job she loved, a stable career, parents who adored her, a fiancé who cherished her. In fact, she and Chen Yang were only 1 month away from their wedding. Just a few days ago, she had been discussing the wedding details with me. I couldn't understand it. Why would she suddenly choose to die? Thinking back to how strange she had acted yesterday, a possibility crept into my mind. Could it be that her death had something to do with that horror story the man in black told? But the moment the thought appeared, even I found it absurd. That evening, I sat at the dinner table, staring at the delicious meal my husband, Zhou He, had prepared. Yet I had no appetite at all. He took off his apron and walked over, pulling me gently into his arms. Bebe, I know Xiaoli's death has hit you hard, but the dead can't come back. If she saw you like this, she'd only feel worse. My eyes reddened as I buried my face in his chest. Honey, Xiaoli's suicide was too sudden. I keep thinking, could it be because of that horror story she listened to? Maybe I should go back there and find out. After what happened to Xiaoli, I had told Zhou He everything. As he listened, I could clearly feel his body stiffen, just for a moment. He gently patted my back, but his voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. Bebe, I won't let you go. Xiaoli killed herself because the story was too terrifying. That's why, before she died, she called you, to warn you not to listen to it. His explanation did nothing to ease my mind. I couldn't believe that Gu Xiaoli, of all people, could be scared into suicide by a story. But if it wasn't the story, then why, before she died, did she say that to me? As my thoughts spiraled, my phone suddenly rang. It was Chen Yang. His voice was hoarse, drained, filled with grief. Wang Bei, I saw that Xiaoli called you before she died. Can you tell me what exactly she said to you? I parted my lips, but didn't know what to say. Was I really supposed to tell Chen Yang the truth? Just as I hesitated, his voice came through again, choked, on the verge of breaking. I've checked the security cameras at home, over and over. Yesterday, after she got back from shopping with you, Xiaoli curled up in the corner of the living room, hugging a pillow, trembling non-stop. She stayed like that until night. Then, she started screaming and laughing at the same time. And in the end, she called you and jumped. I need to know what exactly happened when you two were out. What did she say to you on that call? Bebe, you were her closest friend. Please, can you tell me? Every word from Chen Yang sounded like it was bleeding, as if his heart were being torn apart. Faced with that plea, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. But if Gu Xiaoli had truly died because of that story, then telling Chen Yang, wouldn't that be harming him too? And yet, why did Xiaoli only warn me not to go, instead of telling me to stop Chen Yang as well? Just as I was caught in that hesitation, my phone was suddenly taken from my hand. It was Zhou He. Bebe is too devastated right now. She can't talk. She already told me everything. Nothing unusual happened during their outing. And Xiaoli's last call was just to tell her to take care of herself. Please accept our condolences. In a few days we'll come to see her off. After hanging up, Zhou, he said calmly, not telling Chen Yang is for his own good. I looked at him in surprise. His expression was far too composed, almost unnaturally calm. Could it be that he knew something? The next day, as I went out to buy groceries, a figure suddenly rushed toward me. Chen Yang stood in front of me, his eyes bloodshot, his hair greasy and hanging messily over his forehead. He looked nothing like the clean, well-groomed man I knew. Bei. I thought about it all night. I still feel like Joe. He is lying to me. That day, when Xiaoli was out with you, something must have happened. Otherwise, why would she only call you, and not me? I bit my lip, unsure how to respond. Then, with a dull thud, the tall man in front of me dropped to his knees. Wang Bei, I'm begging you, please tell me. If I don't know why Xiaoli died, I'll never find peace for the rest of my life. Looking at the man before me, so deeply in love, I couldn't hold back my tears. In the end, I told him everything, from beginning to end. He quietly said thank you, then turned and walked away without looking back. As I watched his retreating figure, fear crept into my heart. Yet strangely, there was also a trace of anticipation. I hoped Chen Yang could find out what exactly Gu Xiaoli had heard behind that black curtain. What kind of story could possibly hold such terrifying, evil power, enough to drive someone to take their own life? Time passed slowly as I waited. Even when I drifted off to sleep that night, there was still no news from him. The next morning, the moment I saw a message notification on my phone, I jolted awake. It was from Chen Yang. My heart raced as I opened it. But there was nothing there. At 1 a.m, he had sent me a message, and then unsent it. What had he written? Why did he take it back? I immediately texted him, but an hour passed with no reply. Frowning, I tried calling him. No answer. A sharp chill ran through me. A terrible premonition began to rise. I rushed out the door, got in my car, and drove straight to his place. Ignoring the risk of a ticket, I parked by the roadside and ran into the apartment complex. As I approached his building, I heard the sound of an ambulance. A crowd had gathered downstairs. Fragments of conversation drifted into my ears, like electric shocks, making my whole body tremble. He was so young. Why would he do something like that? So scary. I'm never going up to the 17th floor again. Do you know how he died? I've never heard of anything like it. It took me a long time to finally accept the truth. Chen Yang was dead. He had hanged himself from a rope beside the bathroom sink. After returning home, I felt completely numb, like my soul had been hollowed out. One after another, the people around me were choosing to end their lives. It was pushing me to the brink of collapse. After hearing what I told him yesterday, Chen Yang must have gone to that stall. And yet, after coming back, he ended his life, just like Gu Xiaoli. Hanging himself beside the bathroom sink, no matter how I thought about it, it made no sense. In a situation like that, as long as there was even a shred of survival instinct, a person could still stand up and save themselves. So what exactly had Chen Yang experienced yesterday that made him so determined to die? And that message he sent, only to unsend it before his death. What did it say? I couldn't figure it out. All I could do was let the tears fall. The door clicked open. Joe. He had come home from work. I threw myself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. After I told him about Chen Yang's suicide, he said nothing, only comforted me quietly. When I finally calmed down, he asked casually, Bei, before he died, did Chen Yang say anything to you? No, he didn't say anything. Maybe it was just my imagination. But after I said that, it felt like Joe. He let out a faint sigh of relief. I took a deep breath and looked at him. Honey, I can't just let this go. Tomorrow I want to go back to that horror story stall. In that instant, Joe, His body stiffened. He lowered his head, staring straight into my eyes. Bebe, before she died, Xiaoli told you not to go. Are you really going to go against her last words? Tears streamed down my face as I shook my head desperately. I'll remember what she said, for the rest of my life. But I can't just let her and Chen Yang die like this, without knowing why. Don't try to stop me. Tomorrow, I have to go. Bang. The glass on the table shattered as Zhou. He slammed it to the ground. Wang Bei, you are not going. I froze, startled by his outburst. In all the years we had been together, this was the first time he had ever lost his temper with me. His eyes were fierce, his face cold. Nothing like the gentle man I knew. A sharp ache spread through my chest. I never imagined he would get this angry over something like this. Crying, I ran into the bedroom and collapsed onto the bed. Zhou He and I had been together for 10 years, from school uniforms to wedding vows. We had never argued, not even once. After graduating, he started his own business. His career soared, and at a young age, he had already achieved financial freedom. After we got married, he handed me all his cards telling me to quit my job, that he would take care of me from then on. All these years, he always came home on time. Even when he traveled, he told me everything. Our relationship had always been something others envied, but today, it was as if he had revealed another side of himself, one so unfamiliar. It made me afraid. I don't know how long passed before the bedroom door creaked open. Zhou. He walked over to me, his voice gentle again. Bebe, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to go because I'm worried about your safety. How about this? Tomorrow afternoon, I'll go with you. Warmth returned to my heart. So, he'd only reacted like that because he cared about me. Thinking that, I quickly got up and hugged him tightly. He patted my back softly. Don't be afraid. I'm here. By accident, my eyes drifted toward the mirror. In its reflection, Zhou He's face was still cold, not a trace of a smile. When I looked again, the coldness was gone, as if what I saw before had only been an illusion. At 3 p.m. the next day, after finishing a meeting at the company, Zhou He came home, and we drove back to that stall. But the moment we arrived, I froze. The street was empty. All the small stalls had disappeared. Beside the road stood a sign. Due to street renovations, all stalls are temporarily closed. Operations will resume in 1 month. Zhou He looked at the sign and sighed. Bebe. Looks like we'll have to come back in a month. I stared at the sign, an uneasy feeling rising in my chest. Why now? Why not earlier? Or later? Why did it have to happen right when I decided to come back? Could there really be such a coincidence in this world? But there was nothing I could do. All I could do was wait. Still, I didn't go home with Zhou He. I told him I wasn't in the mood and wanted to walk alone for a while. He couldn't persuade me otherwise, so he left first. I wandered alone down the quiet street. Memories of the times I had spent here with Gu Xiaoli surfaced, and my heart grew heavier with every step. I had known her just as long as I had known Zhou He. Now that she was gone, I didn't know how I was supposed to go on. After walking for a while, 2 middle-aged women in market management uniforms approached. Their conversation caught my attention. Finally got all those stalls cleared out. I'm exhausted. Tell me about it. If that young man hadn't reported it this morning, we wouldn't have had to do all this extra work. My body suddenly went cold. A terrifying thought surged through my mind. I hurried up to them, trembling, and showed them a photo of Zhou He on my phone. Excuse me. was the person who reported it this morning. Him. One of them squinted at the screen for a moment, then nodded. I'm sure of it. That's him. The world spun before my eyes. I could barely stand. So Joe. He hadn't gone to a meeting this morning at all. To stop me from going back to that stall, he had reported the entire street. Why? Why would he do that? Why was he so desperate to keep me away? I was certain of one thing. It wasn't because he was afraid I'd hear the story and end up like Gu Shaoli. The man I had shared a bed with for years. What exactly was he hiding from me? I clenched my teeth, silently swearing, no matter what, I would uncover the truth. Ma'am, may I ask, do you know the owner of that horror story stall? She shook her head. There are so many vendors here. How could I possibly know them all? That made sense. There were too many stalls on this street. Finding that man now would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. Just as despair began to creep in, she spoke again. You could try the Mingyuan complex nearby. The rent there is cheap and it's close. Most of them live there. My spirits lifted instantly. After thanking her, I rushed straight toward Mingyuan. It was only a 10-minute walk away. An old resettlement complex, dirty, run down. Filthy water pooled across the ground, and a strange, sour stench filled the air. Downstairs, carts and stall props were piled everywhere. I scanned the area anxiously, hoping to spot that horror story sign. But after circling the entire place, I still found nothing. Just as I was about to search again, the door beside me suddenly flew open. A hand clamped over my mouth and dragged me inside. The door slammed shut. And then, I saw it, that familiar black hood. I struggled free and shouted, "What did you tell my friends? Why did they kill themselves?" The hooded man said nothing. Slowly, he removed the hood. The moment I saw his face, it felt like I had been struck by lightning. A scream tore out of my throat. It was the face I hated most in this world. The one I never wanted to see again. The man standing before me, fleshy face, vicious eyes, was my high school classmate, Li Fang. He had always liked me, tried everything to pursue me. Even after I rejected him, he refused to give up, following me, stalking me, until it escalated into harassment. That night, when he tried to force himself on me, Gu Shaoli caught him. She found Zhou He. Zhou He beat Li Fang badly and saved me. That was when I began to fall for Zhou He, and eventually, we got together. With Zhou He protecting me, Li Fang slowly disappeared from my life. But I never expected, after all these years, he would return, like a ghost that refused to leave. I instinctively stepped back, pointing at him. Li Fang, what do you want? Did you kill Gu Shaoli and Chen Yang? Li Fang looked at me anxiously, glancing nervously toward the window, as if something was chasing him. Wang Bei, listen to me. I don't mean you any harm. I just want to tell you, stay away from Zhou He. He's not a good person. I let out a cold laugh, slowly backing toward the door. Li Fang, don't you find that ridiculous? The worst person here is you. His face flushed red. Think carefully. Do you really know Zhou He? I stared at him coldly, my eyes flicking toward the door, calculating my escape. I've been with Zhou He since high school. 4 years of university, 3 years after graduation, 10 years total. No one knows him better than I do. Li Fang clenched his teeth, fury burning in his eyes. If you've really been with him since high school, then name just one thing you did together back then. I was about to sneer, but suddenly froze. I shook my head, staring at him in disbelief. Couldn't remember. Not a single memory involving Joe He from high school. My mind told me we had been young, innocent, happy. But when I tried to recall anything specific, there was nothing. It was like a beautiful shell, completely hollow inside, as if it would shatter at the slightest touch. Seeing my expression, Li Fang's eyes lit up. You see it now, don't you? I shook my head, forcing a rebuttal. That was too long ago. It's normal not to remember. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you think you can break me and my husband apart, you're wrong. Li Fang ran a hand through his hair, agitated. Fine. If high school is too far back, then tell me something from college. I sneered, disgusted. Sorry to disappoint you. In college, Joe He and I did everything couples do. We traveled together, studied in the library, celebrated New Year's. Those are our happiest memories. I remember them clearly. Li Fang glanced nervously toward the window again. Then describe one of those memories, in detail. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Something was wrong. I knew I had traveled with Joe He, but I couldn't remember where we went. Plane or train? What we saw? Nothing. No matter how bad my memory was, it couldn't be this bad. Unlike my vague high school memories, my college years and everything after felt like a document with only titles. I could see the headings. I knew what they were about. But I couldn't read a single line inside. Wang Bei, think carefully. Isn't your relationship with Joe He just a little too perfect? Li Fang's voice rang in my ears. Yes, our story was exactly like a perfect romance novel. From school uniforms to wedding vows, soulmates, never argued, never fought. The envy of everyone around us. Too perfect, like a flawless diamond. But the most perfect diamonds are often man-made. The moment that thought appeared, it terrified even me. Yet it rooted itself deep inside my mind, refusing to go away. Li Fang slowly raised his hands, showing he meant no harm, and stepped toward me. Bei, trust me. Joe, He's true face is nothing like what you see every day. As long as you leave him, you'll... Before he could finish, his face twisted in horror. He yanked the hood back on and ran toward the back of the room. At that exact moment, bang! The door behind me was kicked open. Joe. He stood there, his face distorted, his eyes locked onto Li Fang's fleeing back. The killing intent in his gaze sent a chill straight down my spine. When He saw the shock on my face, his expression instantly softened, returning to that same gentle, familiar calm. He looked at me with concern. Bei, what exactly did Li Fang say to you? Whatever it was, don't believe him. The moment I heard that, my heart tightened. I stared straight into his eyes and asked quietly, "How did you know that was Li Fang?" Joe. His eyelid twitched, just for a split second. Then he immediately explained, "I saw his face when I came in. I didn't expect that after all these years. He's still like a ghost that won't go away, still thinking about doing something to you." My heart trembled. I forced myself to stay calm, not letting anything show on my face, because I remembered it clearly. Before Joe, he kicked the door open, Li Fang had already put his hood back on. And that cloak was loose and oversized. There was no way he could have recognized him, just from his back. He was hiding something from me, without a doubt. Could it really be, just like Li Fang said, that the man I saw every day was only a mask, and that there was another side of him, one I had never known? The thought stabbed deep into my chest. In my heart, Joe had always been flawless, untouchable, perfect. But now, cracks were beginning to spread across that perfect image. Joe stepped forward and grabbed my hand. I suspect Xiaoli and Chen Yang didn't kill themselves. They were murdered by Li Fang. Bei, someone like that has his eyes on you now. You're in danger. Come home with me. I'll stay with you. We won't go anywhere. He was about to continue, but I cut him off. For the first time ever, I shook his hand away. Zhou He. How did you know I was here? How did you... Zhou He froze in place. His expression shifted again and again, before he finally let out a long sigh. I'm sorry, Bei. I put a tracking device on you. Even though I had been mentally prepared, hearing those words still felt like a heavy blow to the head. My mind went blank. I stared at him in disbelief. Why? Joe. He lifted his head to look at me, his expression turning firm. Bei, at this point I won't hide anything from you anymore. About a month ago, I realized someone had been secretly watching us. I didn't want to scare you, so I investigated quietly and found out it was Li Fang. He was only lurking nearby, not doing anything outright, so I couldn't call the police. But I was afraid he might make a move on you. So I installed a hidden tracking app on your phone. Thankfully, I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it in time to save you today. There was still lingering fear on his face, his eyes filled with concern. Seeing him like that, half of the suspicion in my heart melted away, because I believed the feelings in his eyes toward me couldn't be faked. Joe. He pulled me into his arms and continued. When I found out that Xiaoli killed herself the same night after hearing that story, I already had a rough guess. It was probably Li Fang. You know this too. Aside from me, the person Li Fang hated most was Xiaoli. If she hadn't stopped him back then, when he tried to assault you, if she hadn't called me, things might have turned out very differently between us. So he killed Xiaoli and staged it as a suicide. I frowned, voicing my doubt. But the security footage clearly shows Xiaoli jumping. And before she died, she called me. Joe. He shook his head. Bei, with how advanced AI is now. It's not hard to fabricate a video of Xiaoli acting unstable and jumping, then swap it into the surveillance system. As for using voice cloning software to call you in her voice, that's even easier. I thought about it. With current AI technology, it really was possible to create something almost indistinguishable from reality. So I bit my lip and asked again, but even if Li Fang killed her, why go through the trouble of making that call to me? Joe. He let out a cold scoff. That's the cunning part. Using Xiaoli's voice to say those words served two purposes. First, it makes everyone believe Xiaoli committed suicide because of that horror story. That way, no one would bother questioning the authenticity of the surveillance footage. Second, it was meant to provoke your curiosity, to lure you back to that stall, so he could get close to you. You know we're not like Xiaoli. We live in a secure, high-end residential area. He wouldn't have many chances to approach you there. And you rarely go out, so the only way was to draw you out. I murmured, a little dazed. But I didn't go. I told Chen Yang instead. Chen Yang must have discovered something. That's why he was killed too. If both her best friend and fiancé died because of that story, of course I would want to investigate the truth. Joe. He gently stroked my hair. Bei, Xiaoli and Chen Yang's deaths are not your fault. What matters now is finding Li Fang, bringing him to justice, and avenging them. This place isn't safe. Let's leave first. We'll figure out the rest later. I nodded and followed him into the car. But along the way, as I carefully replayed everything that had just happened, The seed of doubt in my heart began to grow again. When I saw Li Fang earlier, I had felt an intense disgust. But when I tried to recall the things he had done to me, I couldn't remember any details. And during that brief time we were together just now, I could clearly feel that he had no intention of harming me. More importantly, I still couldn't recall any concrete details from my time with Zhou He either. What was really going on? After we got home, Zhou He made a call. Soon, a large pile of groceries was delivered to the house. Bebe, I've already handed over all my work at the company. For the next 3 days, we'll stay inside. Don't go out. After 3 days, Li Fang will never come back to bother us again. After we got home, Zhou He made a call. Soon, a large pile of groceries was delivered to the house. Bebe, I've already handed over all my work at the company. For the next 3 days, we'll stay inside. Don't go out. After 3 days, Li Fang will never come back to bother us again. The certainty in his voice felt strange. Why was he so sure that after 3 days, Li Fang would disappear? I asked him directly. But Zhou. He brushed it off casually, avoiding the question. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 3 days were gone. On the night of the 3rd day, Zhou He and I sat on the sofa watching TV. He glanced at the clock, a look of relief appearing on his face. It's already 10:30 p.m. In another hour and a half, no one will be able to ruin our happy life anymore. Hearing that, something suddenly came to mind. I couldn't help but ask, Honey, do you remember when we were dating in high school? Tell me about it. I feel like I've forgotten. Unexpectedly, the moment I finished speaking, Zhou. His expression changed instantly. He let out a stiff laugh, forcing a smile. Why are you suddenly asking about that? It's been too long. I don't remember either. I wasn't satisfied. I pressed on. Then tell me about college. Where did we go on our first trip together? Zhou. He smiled, looking at me gently. Silly. Of course it was Xinjiang, the place you always wanted to go. We went in the summer of our freshman year. You even complained about your ears hurting on the plane. Fragments of memory slowly surfaced. I did remember that in my first year of college I went to Xinjiang with Zhou He. But for some reason, my heart suddenly skipped a beat, because I realized something. Neither Zhou He nor I came from wealthy families. And during peak summer season, plane tickets to Xinjiang were extremely expensive. On top of travel expenses for 2 people, it would have been a huge amount of money. Where did we get it from? Part-time jobs? But when I tried to recall the details, there was nothing. Not only that, a dull pain began to throb in my head. Just as I was about to keep questioning Zhou He, his expression suddenly darkened. He stared at his phone, then abruptly stood up. I caught a glimpse of the screen. It was a surveillance app. On it, in the stairwell outside our apartment, stood a figure in a black cloak. Li Fang had come. Zhou He stared at the black-cloaked figure on the screen and let out a cold laugh. I knew you'd come. Good. Then I'll send you off. An hour and a half early. He gently patted my hand. Bebe, stay here and wait for me. I'll be back soon. With that, he rushed out the door. Watching him leave, panic suddenly surged inside me. What was Zhou He planning to do? Was he going to kill Li Fang? But Li Fang was big and heavy. Zhou He might not even be a match for him. Just as I was hesitating whether to call the police, the doorbell rang. Zhou. His urgent voice came from outside. Bebe, open the door! I hurried to open it. But the moment I saw who stepped in, A scream tore out of my throat. It wasn't Zhou He. It was Li Fang. I staggered back in terror, grabbing a fruit knife and pointing it at him. "What do you want? Where's my husband?" Rage flashed across Li Fang's face. He stomped his foot. "Bei, I'm your husband." Looking at his greasy, bloated face, I spat on the ground in disgust. "You animal. Murderer. Xiao Li and Chen Yang, you killed them." Li Fang shook his head in pain. "They're dead, yes, but they killed themselves. I only told them the truth. And besides, they had to die. Only if they die. Can you live?" I froze. There was too much in what he said. I couldn't process it all at once. What truth could possibly make two living people kill themselves the moment they hear it? Li Fang glanced at the clock on the wall, his voice turning urgent. "It's all fake. Everything is fake." When a person realizes that everything around them, even themselves, is nothing but a fabrication, a mental collapse, even choosing death, becomes a very normal outcome. My mind felt like it was about to explode. "What truth are you talking about? Say it clearly." Li Fang opened his mouth, but suddenly turned to look at the door, fear flashing across his face. From outside came Zhou, his furious roar, and the sound of rushing footsteps. Li Fang lunged toward me. "Bei, there's no time. I lured Zhou He away just now. I didn't expect him to react so fast. Remember this, the truth is hidden in your old house back in your hometown." As he spoke, he rushed past me. I screamed, swinging the fruit knife, the blade slicing through his clothes, but he didn't touch me at all. Instead, he ran straight to the window and threw it open. At that exact moment, Zhou. He kicked the door in and burst inside, his face twisted, eyes locked onto Li Fang, and then I saw Li Fang was already halfway out the window. He turned back, giving me a strange, twisted smile. Then, he pushed off and fell. Everything went black. I collapsed. And just before I lost consciousness, I heard the heavy, sickening sound of a body hitting the ground, along with Zhou He's furious roar. When I woke up again, I found myself lying in bed in the bedroom. Zhou. He was slumped beside me, his head resting near the edge of the bed, fast asleep. The moment I stirred, he woke up too. Dark circles hung under his eyes, bloodshot veins visible. It was clear he hadn't slept all night. Seeing the worry in his eyes, my heart softened. But what he said next sent me straight into an abyss. He didn't ask how I was. Instead, he asked something else. "Bei, what did Li Fang say to you?" A strange discomfort rose in my chest. "He said Xiao Li and Chen Yang killed themselves after learning the truth. And he told me to go somewhere, that I'd understand everything if I went there." Looking at Zhou, his heavy expression, I instinctively lied. But before he could say where, you came in. Then he jumped. "Zhou, what was he trying to say? Are you hiding something from me?" When he heard that Li Fang hadn't revealed the place, Zhou He visibly let out a sigh of relief. "Bei, Li Fang is insane. Don't believe a single word he says. You saw it yourself. He was even smiling when he jumped. If that's not madness, what is?" Hearing that, I couldn't help but feel something was off. With Li Fang's size, if it came to a fight, Zhou He might not even win. And yet, Li Fang seemed terrified of him. So terrified that he would rather jump to his death than face him. No matter how I thought about it, it didn't make sense. Seeing me nod, Zhou He smiled in satisfaction. He stayed home with me for an entire week, until I had fully recovered. After that, our lives returned to how they used to be. Calm, warm, free of any pressure or trouble. And yet, Li Feng's final words kept echoing in my mind. Like weeds, curiosity grew wildly inside me, leaving me restless, unable to eat or sleep. Another month passed. One day, while Zhou He was at work, I quietly left the house. I decided to go back to my old home in the countryside to find out what was really there. As I drove, I kept taking deep breaths, trying to steady myself, because that old house was the place I feared the most. When I was 8 years old, both of my parents fell gravely ill. We had no money for treatment. In the end, unable to endure the pain, they chose to hang themselves. That day, when I came home from school, the yard was empty. I pushed open the door to their room, and the first thing I saw was 4 feet swaying in the air. Then, their bulging eyes, their purplish skin, their tongues hanging down to their chins. I was so terrified